in there. They're going to be not only just true crime stories about big time gangsters, mafiosos, all of that mixed in one. That'll be either on the Patreon or the Apple Podcast subscription or Spotify subscription. So whichever three of those that you want to support, jump into it. You want to jump on all three, that's great. They all will have a mixture of good commentary for you to listen to and to enjoy when it comes to true crime. So anyway, we're going to be talking about a story coming out of Volusia County, Florida. This is a very sad case. This is about the suspect, LaToya Woodward. Imagine you meet the love of your life in church because you feel like they are on the same page you are on. You move in with her and her best friend, but at the end of the day, you don't even know before it's too late that you have married an enemy that absolutely destroys you before you even have a chance to realize. And that's what's going on with the key player at slash victim in this case, Mr. Edwin Daniel. He married a woman that he thought that was going to love and cherish him like he cherished her, and instead she decided to let one of the three things we talk about on this show for this season, for wives killing their husbands or slash boyfriends or other wives, is either what? Money, revenge, or love. Always that. Money, revenge, or love. It's always one of those three. You can't never ignore the sign. So, we're going to go ahead on with that being stated, jump into this story. Again, follow along with me about it. This is a little long, but hey, y'all know how we do over here. We're going to make it do what it do. Let's jump into it. So, LaToya A. Woodward was born on January 1984. Now, she was born on the same year I was born, so let me show y'all all right, we'll do it this way. So anyway, start back at the top and get all that so you can see the picture. LaToya A. Woodward was born on January 7th, 1984, to her mom, Terry McQueen, and her father, Wayne McQueen. She had two brothers, Trevor Reeves and Jimmy Reeves. Now, she was the favorite child. Now, they were all born and raised in the state of Florida. And after she graduated from high school, she decided that she wanted to join the Navy. Now, she got married really young while in the military. And then after that, her first marriage, she had 3 kids, which were 3 boys. But either way, everybody know her. Even though having those 3 boys, she was the life of the party. Now, she loved to bake cakes for all of her kids every birthday. And she always liked to put a little spin on it, giving them, a symbol of mom with love. Now, she was doing great in life until about 2002 when she had her first mental health episode. And she had to be committed involuntarily under the Florida Baker Act. Now, if you don't know what the Florida Baker Act is, it was put in place in 1970. Is what it does, it allows involuntary institutionalization of the individuals that are very much impaired by mental illness. And if they feel like they can harm others or themselves, you have the right to Baker Act them. Now, she spent some time in this behavior facility. She came out and she was still with the Navy. So everything was looking great so far. Now, she served in the Navy for a while. She was like a secretary, which, in other words, that is considered a yeoman, or YE. Now, in 2003, she got accused of desertion. She just didn't come to work anymore. And, in the military, you just can't quit and say, hey, I'm not going to work today. That's that. No, not in the military. You actually have to be there. And once you don't be there a certain time and you don't have authorized leave, they will automatically put you as a deserter. I know it sounds crazy, but this is how it works in the military. Believe me, I should know. I was prior Navy myself, and I've seen a lot of people go through that. So after she got finally reprimanded by the military, she basically said, "Hey, the reason why I left is because I don't have child care for the kids." But they were like, "Well, it's really your responsibility, and you know this, and you know that you are not allowed under federal law not to come into work when it, based upon your military duty." So instead of her doing any getting charged or anything like that, they just possibly felt pity on her, because I'm quite sure that before I came in, this was a couple years before I came in, I'm quite sure they probably didn't have all the resources for people to have child care like that on base to help young mothers or single mothers or young mothers at the time. So they just basically said, "Listen, we're just gonna let you go. We're gonna give you dishonorable discharge, and you don't get no benefits because of it." So yeah, that's the worst thing in the world. So that means she's not gonna get a GI Bill. Her kid's not gonna be able to get a GI Bill. Basically, it's like, hey, you was here, but you didn't do what you're supposed to do. So this is your result. So in 2003, uh, she's working again. She's trying to get it together, and it seemed like she was doing good for the next 3 years. But then in 2006, she had another episode again. So she had to get remanded back into a mental health facility under the Baker Act. Now, around this time, okay, when she get out of the facility, her kids ended up being with their grandmother, which is her mom. Now, a lot of people try to say that if you read in the court filing and cases on record, that they try to say that she abandoned her kids with her mom, but her mom has gone on record to say in interviews and on publication that it was not like that. The reason why she got the kids is because at the time LaToya was having a hard time with getting herself together through her mental health. So she just said, "Hey, listen, I will watch over the kids until you get it together. Don't worry about anything." So it was not, no, "Hey, mom, take these kids, I'm out." It wasn't nothing like that. It was more like, "Okay, mom, I'm leaving the kids in your hands because I got to get myself together before I can get kids." Now, here she is out on a mental health kick for a second time. She's 23 years old, and she's just looking like she's really trying to get it together. She want her kids back. She really glad that they're in a safe place. So her thing is she started to go to church. And while going to church for a little while, she getting herself together. She's getting the right type of, I guess, spiritual guidance to get her life somewhat in the right path. And then that's when she spot this dude that's working with the media team at the church. His name was Edwin Daniels. Now, Edwin Daniels is a large guy. I want to say that they said they call him the big teddy bear, so I'll say he was probably about 5'11", 6 foot. And he was, like everybody said, nice. He just had a way about him that made people just want to be around him. And I'm about to tell y'all a little bit more about Edwin's history, so that way y'all could get an idea of who she is. So let me give y'all an idea right quick of, who he is. So now, Edwin name was Edwin Lee Sinclair Daniels. Man, that's a hard name, man. I like it. He was born on October the 26th, 1982 in Brooklyn, New York. Now, he was born to his mom, Floyd Day. He was the third of the 4 children. He had an older brother named Tony Barr, and he had a middle sister named Sally Walker. Now, little Sally Walker was always protective of her brother. She said he would follow everywhere she go. He also had a younger sister named Claudette Daniels. They would call him their teddy bear. They're squeezing. And he was always, like I said, very friendly. Now, you can tell by his hair. I want to say, and I'm gonna say they're from the island, and I want to say that he's probably. I wouldn't say he's Indian. I would say he either West Indian or maybe of Caribbean descent. I know he's not Jamaican. I know he's not Trinidad. I want to say I'm going to put my bet that he's either West Indian or Caribbean with the way his hair is. But like I said, they were a really close knit family. But anyway, him and his family was in New York until he was 12 years old. And then in 1994, they moved down to Florida. Now, he stays in Florida for a while. He goes to high school out there. Then he started dating his sister friend, LaToya. Now, LaToya basically told this girl, his sister, like, yo, I really like your brother. I think your brother is a good-looking man. Good-looking dude. You know what I'm saying? I want to holler at him. So they was like, all right, let's do it. So she hooked him up, and they basically started dating for a while. Now, at this point, they, a couple is at the high school. Edwin started getting into the technology field, even though he wasn't feeling the college route. So he decided to start working at the telephone company Verizon. So while that is going on, he found out that him and LaToya is pregnant. So they have a son together in 2002. Now, again, Edwin is only 20 years old at the time, but he's happy to have a son, His son's name is Jordan. And although he loved his son, things were not working out with him and LaToya anymore. So they break up shortly after having Jordan, which sad because, it happens, you know what I mean? People fall out of love in that young of an age. Now, like he had told everyone in the family, yeah, even though we broke up, I'm not going to let this affect the relationship I have with my son. I'm going to be a co-parent with her, and we just going to work it out. So he would see his son often. In some cases, they say almost every day. He'll go to luncheon. They do activities. Jordan knew that he was loved by his father. He didn't have to question. He didn't have to think about it. His dad was in the picture. And in addition to being there for his son, he was always there for his family. Now, his brother said he was there. His brother had a daughter, Britt, and she described this as Edwin, which is Edwin's niece. And she said, and this is from the family and his sisters, everyone said, that he would do anything for anyone. Very hard worker, very family oriented, like family over everything. Then Edwin started taking his free time and volunteering at a local church. Started helping out with their media and technology. And while he's working in this church, that's when he met the 23-year-old LaToya. Now he's like 24. Like his son is 4 years old at least, turning 4. And they met at the church. And ain't nothing wrong with meeting a good person at church, right? Usually should have the same value, same concept of family. And before you know it, their family became friends. Edwin ends up moving in with LaToya's brother Jimmy until they become roommates. So now LaToya and Edwin, they really kind of seeing a lot of each other because she goes to visit her brother, and other people as well that was living in that home. And then they saying, he done trade, the new roommate in, and her brother move out and the sister move in. So when Edwin moved LaToya in, because now Jimmy's gone, this is when she had got out the hospital for the second time and they kicking. They living together. And they say, she get pregnant. And she got pregnant both times with daughters. Now, I don't know their names, but I can tell you it start with an M and an L. So you got M and L. So after them being together for about 10 years, they were like, you know what? I do love you and we should be together forever. So I'm going to make a proper woman out of you. I'm going to get married. And that's what they did in 2016. Now, Edwin's brother, Tony, he was the minister. He actually married the two of them. They got married. They officially brought themselves a home together down in Daytona, Florida. So apparently, like I said, there's Daytona and then there's Daytona. They're all a part of the county called Volusia County. So Daytona is like the suburban part of Daytona. So when you hear someone say, oh yeah, I moved to Daytona. Daytona is the suburb of Daytona. Now, they got this home, right? And it's a good situation. They got their girls living in the house. Like the sons were still with the grandma, but when they wanted to come be with mom, they had a place to stay. His son, he had a place to stay when he wanted to see his daddy. And it really seemed like their home was just that, And then one day, LaToya got a call from this girl of hers that's a friend of hers named Crystal Live. And Crystal like, hey girl, she like, oh my goodness, it's my military best friend, Crystal Live. And Crystal said, hey girl, times are hard out here. She need a place to crack. And she was like, you don't worry, I got you. We just brought a house and you got a place to stay. Now, I don't know if the arrangements, if Crystal paid rent or they just let her stay there rent free. I really don't know. But I do know that she was helping out around the house. She would help with the cleaning. She would also help out with the kids. I think she would babysit the kids from time to time. And she was supposed to be there for a couple of months, but she wound up being there for a couple of years. And it happens. You know what I'm saying? You know that friend that you be like, you know what? This person do earn their keep. They help me with my kids. I ain't got to worry about no babysitters. Things are straight. Yeah, I can kind of afford them to be there. You may charge them a little something, or you may tell them, hey, your services is what, is the way you can pay the bill. I mean, I'm not saying everybody should do that, but some people do that a lot. Now, I do know that Crystal was in the house with them while they was married and they kids. They have their disagreements, they arguing and stuff like that, but it'd be very short. They'll make up, and that'll be it. So during this time, Crystal is helping with the kids. She makes sure the girls got like whatever they need for the house, headphones, things of that nature. But it just seemed like everything that Edwin started doing started agitating her. And Edwin's like, well, then, you don't love me no more? What's going on? So while this is going on, LaToya doing what she can to help out with the finances and stuff. She decided to start, she's working at Subway, right? So she's working at Subway. She's 34 years old. And she started working with this young dude named Alan Roberts, 26 years old. Now, LaToya sees him and is instantly attracted. Now, she don't care if she got a ring finger on her finger or not. People already know she married, but she ain't caring because she wants this man. She is infatuated with him. And she just telling all her co-workers about how the home life is not, in the marriage life ain't working out. Just telling them about this, that, and the third. And you got him just busting out telling her, hey, if you was my lady, I wouldn't have you stressed out like that. I treat you like this, that, and the third. All the sweet nothings. A real player tell a woman that's in a relationship and he just in for it for his own pleasure. You know what I mean? But now, this affair they got is going hot and heavy. And then next thing you know, LaToya get pregnant again. And she's very sure that this is not Edwin's baby. It's Alan's baby. Because that's who she been messing with. But she was trying to make sure this baby got the full term. But maybe God had something in the other plans, and the baby did not get the full term, and she lost the baby. But she didn't care. She was in love with this guy. I mean, she was almost the mother of his child. She feeling like she failed as a woman, and things are being beyond control. But that's all right. She still is focused on this work husband. So one night, the two of them are getting over the dish, and Edwin got so mad that he ends up kind of pushing and hitting LaToya. LaToya, she already on edge, her mental, probably, a little messed up from the miscarriage, and here she is with the love of her life at Subway, and she can't be with him like that, and now she got to come home to this dude like this, who's now feeling like, you always agitate me, you're complaining, and I don't feel like you love me like you're supposed to. So she gets fed up, and now Edwin will put his hands on her, allegedly. So what does she do? Well, you know what she do. She goes, she gets a gun, and she points it directly at Edwin and says, "You are not going to touch me anymore." Now the police end up getting called to the house, and LaToya says, "Edwin hit me, he pushed me, and I put a gun on him, and Edwin was arrested for it." Now, that's domestic violence in the state of Florida. If you call somebody and, they got in Florida or that's the same here in Georgia. Somebody's got to go. And if there's any bruising, because that's all it takes, and I'm quite sure she probably had some kind of bruising, because usually when they take you to jail like that, they got to have some kind of bruising for to pull out that gun. Now, getting back to the main topic, not the kids, there's not just kids in the house. You got Crystal, her buddy, living there too. Crystal's like, yo, they arguing all the time. But she's trying to help out. She's trying to make sure that they don't hear all the arguing, have their headphones in their ear and stuff like that, so they can at least have some normalcy. So one day on April 13, 2018 to be exact, LaToya gets off work and decides she's going to head over to Alan's house to decompress, however she may choose to do. Now, she don't stay long, but she does ask Crystal, and she pick up the kids from school. Crystal like, yeah, I got you. And she goes and picks up the girls at 5:30. I'm thinking that late, they must be had an after school activity or program. Crystal then goes home, gets home, and gets the girls settled for the evening, making sure they got the food or whatever they need. Crystal's really a big help around the house. Sounds like now LaToya gets there and Crystal is like, cool, glad you're here. I need to run over to Walmart. And that's the story goes that Crystal leaves for Walmart around about 7:30. Now on her way out, she can once again hear LaToya and Edwin going at it. They are like really on that bullshit like they always, back and forth. Now, at this point, Edwin leaves to go to get some McDonald's. So Crystal comes in from Walmart. She takes the bags to her room. She sits down. Now, she already, of course, knows LaToya is home. The girls, Crystal, is already at the house as well. She's gonna put them to bed. Put the headphones on so mom and daddy don't wake them up. And then Edwin walks into the house, which hits with his McDonald's. And he right then is ambushed by LaToya. Of course, their arguments on site every single time. And you know how that goes. So they argue and it's escalating. LaToya's over it. So what does she do? You know what she do? She goes into the kitchen. She gets a cheese knife now. And if y'all don't know what a cheese knife is, they're long, they're very rigid, and they got like two prongs at the tip. Okay, and that's when she went down there while Edwin is still in the foyer. He ain't even had a chance to put down a McDonald's yet. She goes and starts stabbing him and stabbing him and slicing him and stabbing him over and over again. She stabbed Edwin a total of 34 times. She cut his tongue out his mouth. She even, this is about to be brutal, slashed his esophagus. He had cuts and gashes all over his body, his skin. Like, it was horrible. Now, Crystal, she upstairs. She is unpacking her Walmart stuff. She had her bed, taking her taking her stuff and organizing it. Next thing she knows, LaToya is like, Crystal, come here. Help. Call 911. It's Edwin. So Crystal is all frantic and everything. She's calling 911. You know. So while they calling 911 and she's talking and LaToya is talking 911 on the phone, they don't mention an extra entrance to the house. So it's just blood. Okay, this man has been stabbed 34 times. Okay, and he was just dead on the foyer. So when she gets downstairs, Crystal, she sees LaToya crying. So she's hyperventilating the lady. So it's Crystal that called 911. I'm sorry. And she's talking about her roommate is sad. She thinks somebody might have broken in because she like, he ain't moving. She ain't thinking that LaToya would done something like this. So you got LaToya saying, please help somebody, get somebody down here. So you got EMS there arrive at 10:30 p.m. to the house on the 1200 block of Highland Boulevard. And when they pull up, you got Crystal and LaToya. They're outside. Now LaToya is like sitting on the curb in the fetal position. Crystal's pacing back and forth. You got Deputy Sarah Jackson and Sean McGuire. They're the first responders on the scene. And the deputy Sarah Jackson's like, there was blood everywhere. She like, they're on the walls, it's on the floor. Like, she could tell it was a real struggle that happened here. And when they got to the scene, LaToya was like, my kids are still inside. And they're like, okay, there's kids still in the home. So they go, they find the kids. These kids are asleep with their headphones on. I guess, they could tell that Crystal once again put those headphones on so they wouldn't hear their mama and daddy arguing and stuff like that. So after the kids were woken up, they're taken away by a child protective team to be interviewed later. Now, like they said, they saw Edwin. They pronounced him dead on the scene. They're talking to the adults that were left at the house. They were both freaking out. They were like, okay, we need to get y'all to the hospital. We do your, and then we need you all for questions. You know how that goes. Go down to the station, give that statement. They want to find out what all that happened in the detail. So they go, take him to the hospital, get him checked out. Now they're waiting for questions. Now, while they were getting checked out the hospital, Edwin's mom pulls up at the house because someone needs to come up here and get these kids. And they take the children for the interview. Now, both of the girls, they were like, we didn't hear anything. We went to bed like normal, and we woke up. It was the police. Here, the homicide squad comes and looks at Edwin's body, and they see him lying dead in the hallway. Now, he didn't really make it past the foyer. They saw that he was between the kitchen and the living room, and near his body, they found French fries from the bag of McDonald's that had the food in the receipt. And they were checking out the scene. And they noticed that underneath his body was like a Rastafarian hat. And they were like, okay, who does this belong to? Does Edwin have ties to Jamaica, or do we? Is it does it belongs to someone that maybe could have been the intruder, the person that ambushed and made the scene happen. And so the police look around the house and they're like, it don't look like a forced entry. Nothing has been taken from the house, so it couldn't have been a robbery. And they're like, what could the murder weapon have been? We don't see no bullets, so we know that it's not a gun, but we're not sure what the murder weapon could be on it. So they look around, they see what they can find. They go in the kitchen and they see a knife that's in the sink. It's a cheese knife. It's clean. And they're like, okay, let's pick this up, check it out. They see a couple other knives around the kitchen. All right, let's get these up. So they got all these knives that's around loose for evidence. Now, the police still processing this scene. They're trying to find out who the killer is. So then they finally transfer LaToya to the department. She gets there and they interview her. They interview her before they interview Crystal. They start by checking her body for physical evidence. They notice a cut, black or a straight, on the outside of her left knee. And she was like, oh, I was sitting on the ground. And they were like, okay. And then they're like, look at these clothes that you have on. Got a little splatter. There could be, let's go ahead and take these off of you. Give me those shorts and give me all of that evidence. Now, she was wearing a blue Key West Florida tourist t-shirt, some black basketball shorts, and some blue fuzzy top. Police bagged intact, bagged it and tagged it, and they were like, you can get into these scrubs. You can sit down while we talk. Now, I know a lot of people gonna ask, well, why do they do that when they get them at the police department and get these clothes like that immediately? Well, it's because it's part of the investigation. They want to get every item of the person's DNA or the victim's DNA so they can put together all the parts to see if they can put together how this person wound up in the position that they are in. So if they see any blood or even any marks on your body that look suspicious or look superficial wound or anything, they're going to take pictures of it. That's just what they do at the police station. The standard routine when it comes to any type of major investigation, especially a murder investigation. So then they asked about the relationship with it. They said, how you married? She like, oh, it's normal. We like normal couples. We fight a little bit and then we make up, But she said that they love each other deep. And then they asked her, are you seeing anybody else? And then she was like, oh, no. That's scratching her face. And we all know this is a lie. But they were like, okay. Well, tell us how your day went. And she was like, oh, I had a normal day at work and I was tired. And my best friend said she would pick up the kids for me to school. So I went home. I went to bed. She took a little nap. She said that she was texting Edwin like, hey, honey, when you going to get off work? And dad's changing that or whatever. She said she goes upstairs and she's waiting in her bed for Edwin to come home. She falls asleep. I guess this is, part 2 of the nap. But then she hears a loud bang, and then part of her starts to say, should I investigate? The other says, this sleep too good. He'll come up when he's ready. So I lay back down. According to her story, it's been a while. She drifts off, she backs up, and she was like, damn, everyone ain't made it to the room. So she goes downstairs, walks around the corner, and there is Edwin on the floor covered in blood. Blood everywhere. Y'all know that this girl already lying, but we gonna keep going. And she says, I just tried to hold him. And I didn't know if he was breathing. I was just trying to hold him. And they said, did everyone ever say anything to you? And she says, I don't know. Now she's crying. She's like at the point, I'm just screaming, yelling, Crystal, please come help. Call 911. Like I said, we argue, but I love this man. Here he was. The man was slaughtered on the scene. If you didn't do it, what a sight to see your husband in your 4 years, with all this blood on him and down to the wall. Now, what I mean, right? His tongue is cut, his skin just peeled off, and that's what happened. So they were like, all right, we got enough from you. Let's go see what Crystal has to say. The detectives are like, okay, LaToya is saying that she picked up the kids, and okay, LaToya is saying that you picked up the kids. She said I did, and they was like, okay, when that happened, and they said around 5:30, and so Crystal, she's sticking with her story that once she got home around 7, she went to Walmart. Not a long trip to Walmart, and she goes and she comes back. She says, I go upstairs to take my stuff to my bedroom. And then when I was coming back down, she was like, I called 911, and I'm like, what's going on now? Crystal continues to tell them that LaToya is barely answering any of her questions. She's saying what's going on, and all LaToya is saying is, oh God, oh my God, oh my God, he's bleeding. He's bleeding. I'm like, who's bleeding? And then Crystal says, then I see blood on the floor. I backed up. I said, whoa. Now the detectives, they sitting with this, they got two stories, and they are not on the same page. The only consistent thing is really that Crystal picked the girls up. So then they start to ask her. So then try and dig into it. Was there any argument going on this night? Because Crystal, LaToya said they argue. They love each other, but they argue. So was there an argument this night? And Crystal was trying to downplay it like, no, there wasn't arguing. I don't really even think Edwin was home at the time of the argument. Like, he wasn't home when I got home with the girls. So the cops are like, hold on. Before you get too deep with this, into this lie, I want you to listen to this. And they play a 911 recording, and it's Crystal talking to 911 talking about, oh, they were arguing, and the next thing I know, he's dead. They were arguing before I left. I just got back, and I just found him like this. So which is it? Was Edwin not home, or was it? Listen, he was like, was Edwin not home, or were they arguing before you left the house? Because on the 911 call, when they had no reason to lie, they were arguing at the house. So what story do you want to tell us right now? And she was like, okay, they were arguing before I left. But she was like, but that's just what they do. But what this confirms for the detective is, one, Edwin was home when she left. And two, LaToya wasn't asleep. Because how can you be asleep if you arguing? That don't make no sense. So they played a 911 call for her, and the 901 dispatcher walk me through what happened. And she said, I heard a whole bunch of shouting and everything. The 911 operators, she trying to get clarification, what do you mean shout? And she said, okay, so you said you heard a commotion. And Crystal no, I thought I heard something. And then I left and I went to Walmart. And then when I came back, I think even still here, in the 911 call, she's trying to walk it back a little bit. I don't want to implicate her for arguing. So now we went to and from, there was some shouting, and now I thought I heard something, right? But maybe this is when she's signaling her. Maybe LaToya is sitting there like, girl, not too much. Okay, and so of course them playing this back, and she herself saying she here arguing, and so the detective was like, so run this back. So you heard arguing when you left. And she was like, it was a little bit. I don't know. She said, I just don't want to be around it, which I very much feel that that's the sentiment, especially if this is something they do. It's more so here they go again. I'm going to go out to Walmart. I'm going to make some of these kids, make sure these kids are straight and do whatever I have to do not to be around it. But it also make a detective okay, you trying to cover for yourself or LaToya. But for what? Because why lie? If you ain't had nothing to do with it, why lie? After she returns the story She went upstairs, she puts up the groceries, and then when she heard the 911, so now with Crystal saying definitely they argued, they go back to LaToya. They was like, yeah, Crystal said, y'all arguing. He said, she's a liar. She's lying. She's a liar. She's a rug. All she did was lie. At this point, the cops was like, I mean, I think we done for all the questions, but y'all better stay close. So we're gonna check in these stories. And then stories sound very suspicious. So anyway, Edwin's body is autopsy on April the 16th. The autopsy showed that there was already very easily seen that this was a very brutal and very horrific attack. He was stabbed 34 times. I'm telling you, you can see bone, you can see his skin falling off of him. There was a depression in his skull that was very serious, and his carotid artery had been completely slashed. Because of how serious the injuries were, the detectives believed that this couldn't have been just anyone. It had to be someone that knew him personally. It had to be somebody that had a personal vendetta against him. It had to be a crime of passion. They're like, okay, now we need to look into friends, family, lovers who will want to hurt him. And while the detectives are still working, forensic is starting to get back with some answers to some questions. Turns out that T-shirt that she was wearing, yeah, the blood on that T-shirt, it was Edwin. But still, that's not enough, to arrest anybody. That was her husband, and she did find him dead. She could have touched him. It wasn't like the shirt was soaked in blood, so then they go and they're like, all right, let's look into Crystal. The story was a little shaky. Let's see if she's telling the truth. She said she was at Walmart and they got the cameras from there and they checked them, and Crystal absolutely was there buying her groceries, her personal items, her things, nothing for a murder. There was a receipt. She was clearly in and out. She was telling the truth. And the police are like, the way this happened, I'm really starting to think that it happened between. And this is when the police get the theory that the murder had to happen while Crystal was at Walmart, which makes them think that there had to be another way for Crystal to get in the house, and they ruled Crystal out as a suspect. Now they're still asking anyone and everyone if they know anything at all. And that's when LaToya's friends, I guess that they not her friends for real, but they started talking to the police because they probably was appalled by what happened to Edwin. Well, like, LaToya got this boyfriend, right? And the police were like, oh, she got a boyfriend, a side. LaToya friends were like, oh, yeah, got a side dude, he worked down at the Subway, eat bread. He be making them sandwiches. And they're like, okay, do you know anything about this hat? And they showed the friends the Rastafarian hat, and they were like, "Oh, I know exactly what that hat is. Oh, that's the little Hassad dude, a little boyfriend. He got her that as a little gift. That's her hat." And they were like, "Okay." So Alan that works at Subway Eat Fresh, let's go find him. So they pull up the Subway. Alan's not there. However, the manager is there, and they are like, "What can you tell us about Alan?" And they're like, "Alan works here." And then they was like, "What about around this day?" And they were like, "You know what? Alan did have a rough day that day. He was freaking out. He broke down at work. He had a meltdown. I don't know, but it was a weird day for Alan." And they were like, "Okay, Alan was acting suspicious at work. Great. Let's go find Alan." They go to find Alan. Alan said, "You want to talk to me? All right. Y'all gonna have to buy me something to eat first." Yo, Alan. And they said, "Sure. We'll buy you something to eat." And they finished. Then he finishes his plate. He said, "All right. Check this out. I don't have, don't be calling me. I'm not gonna talk without a lawyer. Thank you for the foot long though. I'm 100% doing that." So at this point, investigation is not producing any leads or any evidence. They got two main suspects. LaToya and Al. Neither one of them are saying much of anything right now. They don't have a real reason to arrest either of them. So Detective Peter Bethea starts to go back over the evidence. When you stuck, you got to start from the beginning and work your way back through. Make sure you ain't missing nothing. So he goes and looks at the clothes that Edwin wearing the night of the murder, and he noticed a circular pattern that matches the cheese knife that was found in the sink. And the knife had a couple of prongs on it, and the prongs kind of match the wounds that's on Edwin's body. And oddly enough, the circular pattern just so happens to match the cut on LaToya's knee. Detective Bethea, he's like, let me get in touch with a blood spatter expert. Let's look at LaToya's clothing a little more closely. The blood splatter expert, he goes and he examines the shirt, and he was like, I mean, according to the blood spatter on this shirt, she would have been in the vicinity of the crime when it occurred because of how the blood is on Edwin's clothes and how it was found on her clothes. And it was like, okay, present at the time of the crime. I tell you what, that sure tells you that sure doesn't fit sleep at the time of the crime, right? So then they start going through LaToya's phone record, and they see that her and Alan is talking a lot. And I mean a lot. Specifically a lot on the day of the murder. The records are showing that after the shift, she didn't go straight home because she was so tired, like she told the cop. She was at Alan's house. So the murder happened on April the 13th. So from April 1st to April 14th, LaToya and Alan contact each other 91 times and text each other several times a day. Now, could this just be them in love? Or was it a lot more conversation than usual now? I mean, it all depends, right? Because when people are in love and they be caked up just sitting on the phone, what you doing? Nothing. What you doing? Okay. You know, dudes fall asleep and you know all of that. Oh, call drop. I ain't saying nothing. You ain't saying nothing, but still want to be on the phone with each other after skimming through these text messages on the phone. One of them stood out to the detective, and that's the text that she miscarried, and she's feeling like okay as a woman. So the detectives are like, okay, so you got pregnant. You were telling this man that you was pregnant with his baby, and the conversation is not going, I'm a married woman, I gotta get rid of this baby. This happens, or you can't be known as the father. The conversation is going, I feel like a failure as a woman, meaning you were ready to have this baby, looks like, right? So cops are like, for her to lie and say that there's no relationship, and it's actually a pretty serious relationship. Like, this ain't a fling. This ain't no fuck buddy. This ain't no booty call. This is you was in a full-fledged relationship with this guy. Now, Carl's is still trying to talk to Alan, but Alan is not trying to talk. Every time you turn around, Alan is doing what all these people do. Plead the fifth. Now, in order to get the subpoena and make sure that he's truthful, they offer him immunity to testify against LaToya. Because at the end of the day, she's at least the brains behind it. She was present when it happened. That's what they do. Have the information, at the end of the day. So they're like, Edwin, don't know what your part in it. Don't know if you asked her to do it or what, but she's entitled to the insurance money. She looks like the big fish to be Kahuna. You helped us get her. We'll leave you out of it. Just tell us exactly what happened. So again, not really talking. So the detective said, all right, so let's try and go back to April. If you can remember what had going on in your life back then, and Alan said, I really can't recall that far back. They said, I mean, it's only 5 months, 6 months? Alan said, that's a long time to me. The way they got, basically he's still saying, I can't remember that. He said, I could barely remember what I had to eat for lunch yesterday. So then they're like, all right, so tell me about this. They're talking about the relationship with LaToya. They said, what is it? When did it begin? Alan like, she a friend with benefit. Basically a fuck buddy. That was off and on. Ain't nothing serious. They said, we got all these text messages that tell a different stuff. Like she was about to have your baby. And they slide it over so he could see. And he says, the detective, like, y'all had a lot of communication. LaToya never talked to you about her husband's death. Alan said, not that I can recall. So you're trying to tell me that the lady you've been fucking, your manager at your job, whose baby you was about to have, if it wasn't for these unfortunate events, she tell you that her husband was murdered brutally? If she did, I don't remember. Which is the funniest. To me, that's when I know this dude is really playing the fifth for real. So he just playing dumb. So the cops say, we have a lady who you're in a relationship with, husband is murdered, and she never once tell you that he was murdered. Now that's what Alice said. I'm having a hard time remembering. Okay, all right, cool. I tell you, they wasted their time on the subpoena because Allen was no help. Because when they asked him where he was at the time of the murder, he said, I was with my mother and sister-in-law. And they said, so you went to work, you went home, you believe you stayed home the rest of the night, right? He said, yeah. He said, I did, yeah. This is the most assured answer he gave. So the only thing they got from the interview was that Allen and LaToya were in a relationship. Which he tried to say it wasn't even a situationship. It was just a fuck buddy situation. But we all know that if they was doing sweet nothings and reaching out to each other on a daily basis, it was more than that. But I digress. And they know that somebody is protecting somebody here. So they were like, all right, I feel like we can now get away with actually arresting LaToya. And they're like, another reason is because she sure did try to get that life insurance policy out real quick. Now, it was $100,000 policy. Now, she tried to claim that very quickly, which to me is very suspect. So, now, this is why people, I've always struggled with that too. When is a good time to claim for insurance? Some people say you should give it a couple of days, but if you got to bury the person and you got to have all that lined up, I would think most people say you should try to get insurance claims done as soon as you get the death certificate. That's what I was always told, that the death certificate is provided, you should be able to claim the insurance. Well, that to me is okay. So how quick does it take to get the death insurance, cleared? Because you got some states that take forever with that. So I don't know, man. I always thought that was an iffy thing with insurance because insurance companies are so quick to get very suspicious about you trying to claim something from them. But you just have to be careful at all times. So Edwin's brother, so anyway, they were pretty much convinced that maybe this is the reason why she wanted him dead. So his funeral was held on April 21st, 2018 in Daytona Beach. Now, Edwin's brother Tony said God will strengthen us and take us through these dark hours, and everyone in his family agrees that holidays and birthdays will just never be the same without Edwin. Now, the thing about LaToya and Alan working at the same place is that the rumors about you being accused of murder is going to run rampant in your workplace very, very quickly. And that happened to LaToya. So, because of this, this is what they think why she lost the job. Now, she couldn't find a job for a while, but then she landed on working at an assisted living facility. So, LaToya and Edwin, they were all defendants in a suit against the Prudential Insurance Company of America. I guess fighting about the insurance money. I'm not really sure, what came of that, but everyone was worried about this money. LaToya was officially arrested in November 15, 2018, 7 months after Edwin's murder. She was at her mama house, her mama apartment in Port Orange, Florida. Now, they got a public defender named John Selden. He was like, listen, Judge, I know this is a serious crime, but I think the bail is proper while we're waiting to go to trial. She hasn't gotten in any trouble in the 7 months between the alleged crime, and now she has mouths to feed. He said it was like, absolutely not. We gonna set this bill at $300K. But the Edwards family was like, we don't want to release. And they was at everything that pertained to their son. Even Edwin's mom was like, if she's out, I fear for my life. What if she get us next? So either way it goes, she's in jail. She's chatting with her lover, aka Alan, the whole time while in jail. So the judge thinks about it and says, you know what, I'm going to be in favor of the defendant, and her bond was set at $50,000. And the reason the judge set the bail at $50,000 because it took 7 months to arrest her. She hadn't gotten into any legal trouble, and she did have a family to try and take care of. So now she's out on bail. She's working through, and she gets ready to take the shit to trial. So on pre-trial on January 15, 2019, because the actual trial only begins February the 4th, the prosecution gets up there, man, and they just gonna straight up say LaToya killed Edwin in order to be with Alan, and she need to collect Edwin's life insurance money. She already cashed it in. She did it fairly quickly, and we're gonna lay it out for you while we're pointing the finger at her. They mentioned how LaToya has been talking to Alan the entire time that she's awaiting trial. They had over 19 witnesses testified and showing all the pictures, the bloody, gory scene, the jury seeing it. The mama, she had to step outside because it was too much for her to take. Like, they laid it all out for him. Now, LaToya's defense gets up there and they said Alan is the one who killed Edwin. And when they do this, they got people really wondering because, you know, you still in contact with this dude. Like, this entire time. Did you run it by him that you was going to implicate him in the murder to save yourself? Like, was it a plan where they were like, I mean, I can't be with you, so I mean, blame it on me. Ain't nothing gonna happen to me, or was it just a betrayal? Like, this is confusing. Furthermore, like I said before, she had been in contact with this man until the day of the start of the trial. Now, the pre-trial. So anyway, so the family is there through the whole trial. Of course, Edwin's family is there. Sisters say like the crime scene, the picture, sickening to even see him like that. And of course, nobody wants to remember their loved ones like that. But they also have to fight for his justice. So, like, they have to be present. They have to go through these things. February 7th of 2019, the trial's only lasting like 3 days. But the jury goes for deliberation. And they come back and they find LaToya guilty of second-degree murder. It took them less than 2 hours to do it. They were sure that it was her. And Edward's family said they were thankful that justice was served on their loved one. Now, sentencing did not take place until July the 17th, 2020, because you know we had that COVID shit going on. So you had people in Florida that was a part of it. LaToya family was somewhere in person, and most of them were via Zoom. And what really funny is because when I read the sentence for word, you know, you had some people having a hard time trying to work Zoom. So a first-degree felony is normally punishable by life. And normally a first-degree felony is 30 years. But she had a second-degree felony, which was committed by a weapon. So because it's second-degree and she used a weapon, it gets bumped up a degree. So it goes to a life felony. He's like, all right, does everybody agree that her max sentence can be life? And everybody's like, yes, we agree. And they're like, okay, great. So they had the victim impact statement, got them out the way. First person to come up is Claudette. That is Edwin's youngest sister. And she said Edwin was brutal. behind 3 kids. 2 kids at home while he died on the floor of his own home to die that day after his child's birth. And for her to be a sister-in-law, to be a family member, our family is destroyed. We don't talk to each other. We don't see the kids anymore because of this. We don't do anything wrong. And we're being punished by not seeing the kids because of what she did. And they ask questions. And they're like, okay, when the last time you saw the kids? And they're like, we haven't seen the kids at all. She's upset now. Now, LaToya's mama comes up and clarify this later. She's like, actually, you guys have all seen the kids. They saw the kids pretty much as they wanted up to the actual guilty verdict. And then after the guilty verdict, it was like COVID broke out. You know, you haven't seen the kids. And next to speak was his oldest brother, Tony. And Tony talked about how he moved back to Florida just a year ago because he wanted to be close to his brother. And he's like, and now I moved back and there's nothing there. I was the official at their wedding, and this is heartbreaking. Now, LaToya has some family members who was testifying on her behalf. Her eldest brother, Trevor Reeves, was in D.C. at the time, but he testified via Zoom. Her mom got up there and she said, now, before y'all go pointing finger about this custody thing, the visitation doors are open. She asked the family court to have their pastor help with visitation because Claudette, one of the sisters, was acting a little funny about it. So she was like, I'm going to clear that right now because you ain't going to make it seem like my grandbaby's away from a piece of their family. They lost enough. So LaToya's 11-year-old daughter, who was referred to as M or little M, and also little L, also responded. So with all this happening, everybody talking about the 34 stab wound and things of that nature. She faced a maximum of 246 months, which is 20 and a half years, and the maximum she faced was life. So, with that being stated, after all that, this is the sentence that she wound up getting. So, after the conviction, she was sentenced to life in prison on February 7, 2020. And with Florida law, you do not have no possibility of parole. Life is life. This is a sad story. And I'm gonna just tell you like this. It's a sad story because at the end of the day, LaToya had a choice. If LaToya was not happy with Edwin, she could have just divorced. She could have lived it up with her boy toy, and life would have been great. But she didn't want to do that. She wanted to be compensated. She wanted money. And because she wanted this insurance policy and money and live high off the hog off of it, this is the card that she got dealt to play. Now she will never see her kids. She will never ever be with Alan, and she will rot away in prison. Again, rest in peace to Edwin Daniel. So anyway, y'all get in the comment section. Tell me what you think about this one. Tell me how you feel about this story so far with LaToya. Do you think that she should have got life for the 34 stab room, or you think she should have got 20 years? Just tell me your thoughts, man. And please, y'all, support the movement. Get on one of these Patreons or the subscription on Spotify, subscription on Apple Podcasts as well. All right. With that being said, I love you guys. Take care of yourself and each other. I am out.